Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 15th of 2020, and we are doing part 2 of lesson 31. Yesterday, I tried to give you 2 different goals to do in one short lesson, and that was too much, Miss Burgess. So lucky for us, today we get to do the second half. Now, I do apologize that I am all bundled up. I have a blanket on my lap, I have a fleece on, I have a hat on, I have my little hands, I guess my thumbs through my little holes in my shirt, because for some reason my house is really cold. So I very much apologize, but that's just happening to me. And we are going to rock this lesson anyway. We have some really fun work to do today, in addition to some shout outs and some celebrations, and even the sharing of the most beautiful narrative I have ever seen in third grade. Our essential question is, how do stories help us understand immigrants' experiences? Our goal that we didn't get to yesterday is, can you read it for us, please, Saul? He's saying, if I focus my attention and show resilience when things get hard, by the end of this lesson, I will be able to. And we talked about this one yesterday. Compare and contrast the settings, plots, and central messages from 2 stories by the same author. Thank you for reading that, Saul. Such good focus, Asher. It's good to see your little face, Elisa. All right. Could you please read the essential question for us, Kaysen? How do stories help us understand immigrants' experiences? You got it. Thank you. And Lily, read the focusing question for us, please. How do immigrants respond to challenges in a new country? Wonderful. And I'm going to, you guys can watch me do this. I meant to do it before. Just move that out of the way. There we go. See, Miss Burgess, she's getting better and better at technology every single day. You don't know something, you just learn it, that's all. All right, content framing question. Please read it for us. Benjamin. Distill, what is the central message of family pictures? You got it. Ding, 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 you got it. All righty. Ooh, I forgot to tell you. Here, let me go back for a second. So you're on day 3 of true remote learning. Your remote learning last week was all about orientation assignments and etc. And your remote learning before that was packets and stuff like that. Now you're fully into remote learning, where your expectation is to watch a lesson like this one and then go into Google Classroom and do the assignment that matches and be amazing at it. Just like usual, nothing's changed. But something has changed. We're in day 3 of remote learning, and you have had 2 days of lessons and assignments from me for Wit and Wisdom. The first day was all about writing your narrative, including dialogue, including transitional words, and following the escape, mnemonic. And then yesterday, your lesson was all about creating a sense of closure in your narrative and revising it based on the feedback I gave you. Now, most of the third graders have done this work. Most of you have watched the videos and done really beautiful narratives. Some of you made a mistake the first time on your narrative. You got the feedback, you fixed it, amazing. And I just want to celebrate those of you who have done the work. Now, I decided to make it a competition. So there's 3 classes, Columbia, UNC, and Regis. And we're going to see what class out of the 3 had the most students complete their work the last 2 days. Are you ready? Are you sure? Okay, in third place, and you probably already saw it, in third place was UNC. UNC did a good job. I mean, the people who turned in narratives from UNC, excelente, but they only had 14 turned in. So they got third place out of 3. But please give one clap for each of the excellent students who turned in their work. which is like pretty impressive on only day 2 of remote learning. So go you guys. We have one clap for each. D'Angelo, Izana, Kevin, Isabella, Kason, Josiah, Hade, Maritza, Ariana, Hanya, Miriam, Desiree, Jayla, and Brianna. And of course, you guys heard in your lesson yesterday that Miriam's was featured. So make sure if you didn't see that yet, that you see your girl Miriam being represented as one of the star writers in our narrative unit. So way to go, UNC. 14 people, you guys rock. Let's see now. Who do you think the winner is? We know UNC is in 3rd place. Do you think the winner is Columbia or Regis? Who do you think is in 1st place? AKA, what class had the most students turn in their work? I can hear Regis kids yelling. I can hear Columbia kids yelling. UNC is guessing. Okay, well, drum roll, please. In 2nd place, so this is not the winner, but still a fabulous job. In 2nd place is Regis with 17. It was definitely very, very, very close. Regis had 17 beautiful narratives turned in, so give them one clap each, please. I got essay narratives turned in from... See the difference between an essay and a narrative? A narrative is a story. An essay teaches you something. So some of you at the beginning were like, what's a narrative? I don't know what to do. It's just a story. So I got 17 beautiful stories, aka narratives, from, one clap each, Noah, Lexi, Sydney, Gabriel, Gabriella, Areli, Yvette, Saul, Leslie, Jaden, Jordan, Darren, Kingston, Jocelyn, Kamaris, Michael, and Francisco. And who was our superstar from Regis in the lesson yesterday? Where was it? Didn't I have one from the lesson yesterday? Was it Jordan, Gabrielle? Oh, it was Gabriella. Yeah, it was Gabriella. Yeah, so we had a superstar. So if you didn't watch the lesson from yesterday, make sure you see your girl, Gabriella, represent narrative writers in Regis. So Regis 17 turned in. Good job. Very good job. Not good enough for 1st place. So see what you can do on your next assignments. Encourage your friends to get these things in. But that means, let's make sure my face isn't over one. Yep. 1st place was Columbia with 18. And they kind of give me a problem. I got to stick my face way over here. Here, I'll stick it over here so that you can still see me a little bit. So we had 18 beautiful narratives from Columbia. One clap each, please. Leslie, David, Vega, Danica, Marcus, Ruby, Jasmine, Kiasha, Zariah, Daisy, Kimayan, Abraham, Alexia, Ritika, Natalie, Matthew, Dagam, and Eli. Good job, my little narrative writers. And yesterday, our narrative writer extraordinaire was Vega Booz. So you guys, if you didn't watch the video yesterday, make sure you check that out because your guy, Vega, represented Columbia. Excellent work for getting your assignments in and watching those videos and learning as much as you can, even when you are unable to be in the school building. I'm proud of you. Columbia, Regis, and UNC, those of you who turned in a narrative, I'm impressed. I love it. I loved reading them, by the way. All right, so I did say in my lesson, and I try my very hardest to keep my promises, I did say that for our lesson, tomorrow. This was yesterday when I said that. In your lesson that you watched yesterday, I said, for our lesson tomorrow, I'll pick one of your narratives to share with everyone, and I'll ask, again, what makes this a good example of what writers should do when writing narratives? And I picked one. Yesterday, I picked 3. The day before, I picked 2. Yeah, yesterday, your lesson featured 3. Today, it's only 1. The whole grade level. And this one is extraordinary. This is the best narrative I have ever seen from a 3rd grader in my whole life. And I want to share it with you because I think that you are all capable of it. I think that some of you were just confused. You were like, I don't get what I'm supposed to do. What's a narrative? What's going on? I don't get it. How much do I write? How free can I be? Can I make up the characters? Can I make up the prompt? Well, the answer is yes. That's what writers do. Writers have great imaginations and they make up stories. And this 3rd grader is our model writer, our resident writer for the day. Our resident writer is, and we have a drum roll. Drum roll, please. Our resident writer is Kingston, our narrative writer extraordinaire. I'm sorry, my face was in your way, buddy. He is definitely going to be a future best-selling author, and we are not worthy of your excellence, little Kingston. He did such a good job. So now I'm going to share his story with you because it is, no, we're not going there yet. We're going here. We're going to Kingston's writing because here, you can look at his face while I'm talking because he is going to be famous probably. So you better just look at that face. Kingston's narrative is absolutely wonderful. And in the criteria for success, which I have listed right here, and I'll read it to you, I said that in order to be successful, aka criteria for success, in order to be successful, you have to have an interesting hook. Well, he does. He pulls the reader in right away. With his story, you don't want to stop reading. There's even moments with Kingston's story where you're like, oh, no, oh. That is a good writer. A writer who can do that for the reader is a good writer. You guys are all capable of this. Kingston actually managed it. I can't wait to see what you guys can come up with after you see his example. He also has an introduction that orients the reader to the situation. It identifies the character and the setting. Many of you did that, but wait till you see how Kingston did it. He also organized the events in a sequence that unfolds naturally. You will see there's no awkward moment where you're like, wait, what just happened? You are going along with the story the whole time. It feels very natural. He also includes dialogue and time order words and phrases to signal event order. So Kingston took the criteria for success and he did what every good student does. And he said, wait, if this is the criteria for success and this is what I need to be successful, this is what I need to get a good grade, this is what I need to do it right. And he did all the things. And he did so much more too. His story is absolutely excellent. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Kingston's amazing story. And by the way, before I start, he had the same directions as everyone. The directions were write a narrative that engages and orients the reader, organizes an event sequence that unfolds naturally, includes dialogue, and uses temporal words and phrases. Use the resources below to help you. What resources? Oh, escape. So I'm supposed to establish the situation, establish the setting and the characters, create an action and a problem and a solution or an ending. And yesterday we learned how to give our narratives a sense of closure. And I even put a whole list of temporal words so that you could get away from just using first, next, then, which is so boring. So now, literally, the 3rd grade student who had the exact same directions as you, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy what he created because it is quite a work of art. Here I go. It's okay if you can't really see it. Just enjoy. You can even close your eyes and picture it. Once, a long time ago, there was a young general named Mike. That's me. In the beginning, I lived in Bracken. During this time, there was a war, and in the war, I was the general, but I was really scared because I never led an army. But then I said to myself, I will lead an army to victory and be crowned king and win the war. Then the next day, I trained for hours and hours to learn how to be a general and practice how to be an archer and a knight. It is rare for a general to become an archer. To become an archer and a knight, you would have to work twice as hard. My father, King Madrid, did not agree with me and said, "You shall not waste your time being an archer." I didn't agree with him, and my mother, Queen Mary, heard it all because she was with the baker. She listened to us talking. Then she told the baker to get a couple of knights and villagers. Then my mother, 12 knights, 10 villagers, and myself set off for a new land. As we were leaving, my father grabbed my mother's arm and said, "What's going on?" "I am leaving with my son," she replied. "But you're the queen. You can't leave me." "Well, I can't leave my son." Then my mother and I traveled for weeks in search of a new area to build a kingdom. Everybody got tired, so we set up camp and spent the night in the forest. In the morning, I noticed that we were in a good position for the kingdom. So then we chopped lots of trees to fit a castle and village, and we needed stone to create a wall to defend our castle and village. We started jobs like mining, wood chopping, and baking. We had to collect stone for a wall, coal for furnaces, fuel for baking, gold so we could trade, wood chopping for fires. Our kingdom was coming together. But then we realized we don't have a name. We were thinking for a while, and by the time we had a name, the kingdom was finished. We named our kingdom Elemental Nation. The knights knew there wasn't enough of them for an army, but I taught the knights everything I had practiced. This made it so they would be really good teachers to grow an army. At that moment, more people joined the Elemental Nation and were learning to be knights. This is when something strange happened. One of the miners found a weird steel that the blacksmith Tom could not identify. We took the steel from the miner and called a meeting and announced that the steel would be called Elemental Steel, since we had discovered it. Our weapons became advanced, and then our old kingdom, Bracken, attacked. But their weapons were made of regular steel. It was no match for our new weapons, so we defeated them. During the attack, my mother realized that Bracken had a new queen. This made my mother very angry, so she wanted us to attack Bracken again. I did not want to do this because we needed to get a healer. My mom didn't care. She went to Bracken to attack the new queen herself. She did not succeed and came running back with 10 enemy knights chasing her. Eventually, our archers shot all of them away and we captured 2 knights. "Mom, are you trying to get yourself killed?" she said. "No." We started to argue. Then I kicked my mom out of the nation. She returned to Bracken and became an archer there. In the middle of all of this, I found a queen of my own. Me and my queen worked hard and smart to make allies with every nation. Then the nations tried to overpower Bracken, and we almost succeeded. But then an archer hit my friend, the general, in the back. But this wasn't any archer. It was my mother. I became angry, and next to my foot, a bow and arrow lied. I picked it up and shot at my mother and hit her in the leg. I nearly finished her, but then I realized what I was doing, and I picked her up. While my friend and my mother were being sent to the healer said, "He will be okay, but he will need rest." I went to my mother and asked, "Why? Why did you shoot him in the back?" "Because your nation is weak. You know nothing about power," my mother said. "No, you don't know anything about teamwork. If you weren't my mom, I would have ended you when we were on the battlefield." Then I stormed out of the room. When I checked on the general and he wasn't in the healing center, I asked the healer and she said, "He's gone." Then I said, No, not dead. He left." I looked over, and to my surprise, Astrid was also in the healing center. I asked, "What's happening?" She said, "I don't feel well." Then the healer said, "You're fine." Then I said, "Phew, good thing you're not sick." "She's not sick. She's pregnant." I fainted, and then I woke up in the castle, and Astrid said that I passed out and that the general was going to leave and create his own nation. The next day, the general left with a few soldiers. I sat down for hours preparing clothes for babies. Then, when I made a baby sword, Astrid got back from the market with baby armor. Then we both said, "Don't ask," then went to bed. Astrid couldn't sleep and woke me up and said, "We have to get to the healer." We rushed to the healing center there and waited for hours. The healer came out and nodded. I saw my baby and said, "Aw." Then me and Astrid were both really happy. We named our baby James. We were able to take him home, and when he was able to walk, I taught him how to sword fight, and Astrid taught him how to use a catapult. 10 years later, we got attacked, and I had to fight for days, and we called other nations to fight alongside us. I got a crossbow out and hit a few soldiers. Then I fought against thousands of soldiers. But one managed to hit me with an arrow in the leg, and again, it was my mother. Lastly, I threw my sword to the ground. It bounced and hit my mother's arm. My father came to finish me, and they had planned to kill me, but then my son broke through the glass and hit his grandfather with a fire spell, and then he said, "Don't ask." He picked me up and made an ice bridge up to the broken window. The healer was there, and then they pulled out the arrow in my leg and healed it. I ran into the war, beat up my father, then held him hostage. The war was over. I was happy for a few days. Then a lonely little girl knocked on our gates. I let her in, and I recognized her and immediately knew that she was the general's daughter. She lived in Elemental Nation for a few years until I crowned my son king at age 20, and he made the general's daughter his queen. The end. Wow. Now that is a narrative. Third graders, this is your competition. Can you write a narrative like Kingston? I think you can. I don't know if you guys noticed, but he completely made up his story. He let his imagination go wild. He thought of the characters. He thought of the problems. He thought of the action. He thought of the parts that made the reader go, he thought of the parts that made us want to keep reading. Another thing that Kingston did that's very advanced is that he put little repeating jokes in it, like when he said, "Don't ask," and then he did it again, "Don't ask." He also had a really nice way of closing up his narrative, just like we talked about in the lesson yesterday, and he also included dialogue and beautiful temporal words and phrases that show the passing of time. He didn't go first, next, last. That's boring. He didn't go first, next, then last. That's boring. He actually used the bank and even thought up of some of his own. So if you're at home and you just heard this and realized Kingston wrote it, I bet you're going, and that's true. I did that too for 5 hours straight and my jaw started hurting. But I just want you guys to know that you are capable of doing that. And Kingston is our narrative writer extraordinaire, but it doesn't mean you couldn't be it next time. I'm sure that if you were to email or call Kingston, he could probably give you some advice. And you could even come back to this video and listen to his story again and jot down notes and start letting your mind wander and think about what kind of story you could write. Because Kingston is an excellent example of how writers get to write literally whatever they want to, which is why it's such a fun thing to do and such a fun thing to be. So, future best-selling author Kingston, we are not worthy. That was absolutely extraordinary. Keep up the good work. Everyone, give Kingston 2 claps. 2 more. Awesome, Kingston. Thanks for being our great example. Best narrative writing I've ever seen in 3rd grade, my love. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen even my 5th and 6th graders and 7th and 8th graders when I taught them. I've never read a story from a student that good, Kingston. Keep up the good work, and let's see what other 3rd graders can rise to that level. Good for you. All right, let's move to the next part of our lesson. This part of our lesson is where we're actually going to, here, let's go back for a second just to remind you, we're actually going to work to meet our aim now. Yeah, we've gotten far away from it. So our aim, our objective, our goal is to compare and contrast the settings, plots, and central messages from two stories by the same author. So my question for you is simply, what do you remember about identifying a central message? What are some ways you have learned to do this in a text? What are some, you can't review your knowledge journal because you don't have it, but what are some ways you've learned to identify the central message in a text? Let's see, I see Luis thinking, and Luis, I apologize for yesterday. Yesterday in the video, I said your name and I accidentally said Louis, and you've corrected me on that before, and I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I made that mistake, so I'm saying it right today. I see Luis thinking. I see Alan, Elisa, Jayla, and Kaysen. Christians trying to figure out what are some ways you've learned to identify the central message. All right. I think I heard Asher say that one thing you do is you look carefully at the beginning and ending of the story. That's correct. I think I heard Lily say that you look for words, phrases, and ideas that are repeated. That's also correct. And I think I heard Lexi say that sometimes you can look for repeated images in the illustrations. So that is all correct. That all those things will help you with your assignment today. I want you to review, well, you can't review your notes, but just remember in your brain, and you can't answer the question in pairs. Sorry, guys. I really messed that one up. What are some repeated images or ideas that you notice in family pictures in this story? Okay, there we go. Carmen Lomas Garza's work. What are some repeated images or ideas that you notice in Carmen Lomas Garza's work, aka in family pictures? See if you can remember. I'll give you 5. Okay, I think I heard Maximo say that Carmen Lomas Garza often shows or tells about her family. Raise your hand if you said that. Correct. I think I heard Riaj say that Carmen often shows or tells about Latino traditions. Raise your hand if you got that. So we got family, Latino traditions. And I think I heard Elia say that Carmen often shows or tells about where she grew up. Raise your hand if you got that. Correctamundo. Looking good, Micah. Looking good, Ben. Danica, you are with us. You got this. Okay. So now your job, I'm going to set you free, and your job is to analyze 2 stories from family pictures. The stories are right here and right here, but you're not going to do the assignment like we were in class and I hand you the piece of paper. Instead, I made it for you digitally on Google Classroom. I'll show you how to get to that in a second, okay? So you're going to read these 2. It says, read Picking Nopal Cactus, that's right here, and Oranges, that's right here, by Carmen Lomas Garza, and answer the questions below. So we have question 1, 2, and 3. We have question 4, 5, part A, 5, part B. Remember, those go together. And then we have question 6. And I actually turned question 7 into a multiple choice. Hopefully, if you are paying attention to all ways in which we reviewed how to identify a central message, you will do just fine. And also, read carefully and don't be afraid of reading and rereading. Right, Daniel? Right, Soraya? You got it, Lily? Okay, she's got it. I can show you where to get that one. So if you are in Google Classroom, oh, something happened with mine. So just look up here. I'll move this right here. Google Classroom, Google Classroom. Google Classroom is my favorite. I'll pretend I'm in Columbia Wit and Wisdom. Go to classwork and not good morning for Miss Burgess, not morning meeting, but Wit and Wisdom, and today's the 15th, so April 15th, I click on that assignment. Right now it's a draft because I scheduled it to go to your Google Classrooms at 6:58 tomorrow morning. And you click on the assessment, and it has the directions. It has picking notebook cactus. It has oranges. You got to read those, read carefully. And then you have to put your first and last name, and you can actually answer the questions and fill out your answer for all of the different questions. I think I'll go back in and edit and actually put question 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. because I just realized that's kind of strange. Not essential, but a little strange. And so the cool thing is that this should be worth, I think, 7 points. Oh, I'm going to change it so your name is not worth a point. But 1, 2, oh, I heard Darren say, but he wants a free point. Okay, Darren. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, it might actually be 9 points. The cool thing about this quiz is that the minute you hit submit, you're going to know how many questions you got right. It grades it immediately, and I even set it up so that I give you feedback on the correct answers and the incorrect. One thing to know is that you can only take it once. You have to log in with your account in order to do it, and you don't get to resubmit it, and you don't get to take it again. So read it very carefully, read each question carefully, be very thoughtful and careful, because you know me, I'm excited to shout out all the kids who got a great score on this. And I know there's going to be many of you who got 100% because you're careful readers and you're never afraid to read a question, not know the answer, and go back and read. I took the quiz myself and I had to go back and reread it a couple times because honestly, I found these 2 passages a little bit boring without the picture. And so I had to read it and visualize it and picture it in my head. I had to go back and read it again, go back and read it again. There were some questions where I was like, I really don't remember. So I had to go back and read it again. Honestly, don't be afraid. However many times you have to read it to get 100%, that's the amount you need. I mean, ultimately, life's a competition. We all have to do our best. Right, little honeys? Okay. So I'm going to now, before you can either pause the video and pause this PowerPoint and take the quiz and come back. Or you can stay with me and just listen to this 90-second little clip and then close out the lesson with me and go take your assessment. If I were you, I'd probably just stay for this part, but it's totally up to you. So I want you to listen to Carmen Lomas Garza's presentation at the 2015 Dia de los Muertos Festival, in which she describes Pescando Nopalitos, a painting that accompanies one of the stories from the New Read assessment. So you'll get to learn a little bit more about this before you take the assessment. It's minute 13 to 14.
Welcome to the National Museum
I'll turn it up for you.
India. We're very happy that you're here. This is the second day of a 3.
Go all the way to 13.
Food, of course. This is sort of like a surreal. I pulled out of the next painting that you'll see. This is my grandfather's hands cutting nopalitos. This is a tradition that has been handed down to us from our indigenous Indian ancestors. Something that I didn't realize when we were doing it, but once I got to college, I realized, oh, this is our tradition. This is unique to the American Southwest, unique to northern Mexico.
Nopalitos.
So nopalitos are very nutritious. This is the scene. So we would get together. My grandfather would get us all together. We would go in a car caravan. My father's car, my uncle's car, my grandfather's car, and all of us would go help harvest the nopalitos at the King Ranch. If you've ever heard of the King Ranch, you can look it up on their website. King Ranch. Fences did not mean a thing. I don't have my laser pointer, but you can see there's a fence that's been kind of adjusted a little bit.
Right here.
So we could go in there. The nopal is very nutritious. So you knew, like in Mexico, it's known as the food of the last resort. Because in ancient times, people did not have refrigerators. They did not have a way of storing food except if you dried it. So if your winter supply of food ran out, you knew you could not starve if you knew how to harvest the nopalitos. So you could harvest the fresh cactus pads, cut them, shave off all of the thorns, boil them in salt water, and then drain them out, and then stir fry them with chili and eggs for breakfast. So this is my family piscando los nopalitos.
Beautiful.
The word piscando is a Nahuatl word, pishka. It means to harvest.
Okay. So that is Carmen Lomas Garza. She's a special author and illustrator because she, as you can tell, decided to make all these beautiful pictures and write little stories underneath them. But the stories are real. They're about her childhood and her family and her tradition. So it's all very special. Now, one interesting thing for those of you who decided to stay and watch this is that you'll probably get that question correct on the quiz. So it's going to be a little bit easier for me to see who watched this lesson and who didn't. Am I right, Elia, Asher, Jocelyn, Kingston? Yep. Yeah. I know. Okay. Miss Burgess is a little bit losing her mind. I'm feeling a little tired, but you guys, once you are done with your quiz, you will have met your goal of comparing and contrasting the settings, plots, and central messages from two stories by the same author, because they're two little clips of stories by Carmen Lomas Garza. Okay, so give yourselves a pat, pat, pat on the back, back, back for a job well done. And seek. Good job, Micah. Good job, Christian. I see you. I see you, Ben and Danica. I see you, Daniel and Zariah, Maximo and Riaj, working so hard over there. All right. Now, don't forget, when you're done doing this work, your job is to read for at least 30 minutes, fill out your daily reading and fluency log, and then take the AR quiz if you finish a book, which I don't know about you and UNC and Regis, but Columbia had like 5 AR champions that I got to celebrate this morning because they took quizzes on their books, which was super exciting. So, Luis, Lily, Alan, Christian, Elisa, Kason, Jayla, Lexi, Saul, Darren, Elia, Kingston, Asher, Jocelyn, all of you, everyone in UNC, Regis, Columbia, everyone who heard their name or didn't, I want you guys to have a great day. Thank you for joining me in this lesson. Go off, take that quiz, read it a ton of times, get 100%, and I will see you tomorrow. I can't wait to see your work, actually. Remember, it grades it right away, so you're going to get immediate feedback, and I'm going to be over here just shaking, waiting for the results. Okay, love you guys. Bye. Now here's the awkward part where it just keeps playing, even though I did Shift, Alt, and R. I don't know, guys, but it's good to see you here. I'm just going to have to go over here to stop it. Okay, bye for real.